Hi sunflowers and bloomers, it's Martina here at Bloom Beyond. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a channel where we really just help high performers create a life and business of freedom from perfectionism with the power of the subconscious mind. So really helping you overcome perfectionism. And you know, I get this question all the time, like, what is perfectionism really? Like, what is it? And so I thought we would cover that in this video right here. So perfectionism is a coping mechanism. It's a way to cope with deep-rooted and deep-seated feelings of unworthiness, all right? Might not seem like that on the very surface when you look at the behavior and everything, but that's really what it is, okay? Perfectionism can also, manifest in so many different ways, and there are several types of perfectionism that you could also have. But like, if I was to ask anyone who had perfectionistic tendencies, I think that they would say that it's soul sucking, right? That's what it is. It's soul sucking, sucking your energy as well. It's an energy drainer. It takes so much energy to maintain perfectionism, to just let it be there, all right? It takes a lot of mental energy where you're constantly, subconsciously at least, overthinking things and living a lot more in the past and the future than in this present moment in time. Always very, detail-oriented and always looking outwardly instead of being here right now. With perfectionism, again, it is an energy drainer. So I typically like to say that it takes more energy to maintain perfectionism than it actually takes to surrender it. And then you might wonder, okay, so why can't I just surrender my perfectionism? Right? Why is that? Well, why can't I just click my fingers and just let it be? Well, it is a subconscious coping mechanism, right? So you're coping with unworthiness. And when you have feelings, deep-rooted feelings of unworthiness, you're going to hold on to whatever strategy you have. And for a lot of people, that is perfectionism. It was for me too, by the way. And, that's why oftentimes it's hard to just say, I'm just going to leave it be. Because it is that subconscious. And so, yeah, it is a subconscious coping mechanism. Now, with perfectionism, again, as I mentioned, there are mainly 3 different types. So you have self-oriented perfectionism, you have other-oriented perfectionism, and you have socially prescribed perfectionism. These are the main types that a lot of researchers have come to recognize as legit, right? And you could have, adaptive perfectionism and maladaptive perfectionism. So adaptive perfectionism would be, the type of perfectionism where you're able to adapt it, right? When it's maladaptive, it is maladaptive. It's taking over or really influencing several or, more areas of your life, okay? And that's what I've seen. Perfectionism has a huge impact on your quality of life. It has an impact on your life and business, on your relationships, on pretty much everything, your relationship with yourself as well. So it does have an impact on you. So when we talk about these different types of perfectionism, right, we have self-oriented perfectionism. Very often, it starts with self-oriented perfectionism. So with self-oriented perfectionism, you basically have self-oriented, kind of excessively high standards that you put onto yourself. And when you put these excessively high standards onto yourself, you feel a lot of pressure to kind of raise up to those standards. And if you don't, that is really where things can get really tricky. You can notice self-oriented perfectionism by the kind of language you have within you. You might notice yourself shoulding all over yourself, being like, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, I shouldn't do that. Or it could also manifest as you saying, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to, which is just another way of saying I should, right? With this kind of self-oriented perfectionism, what it is that it basically comprises beliefs that striving for perfection and being perfect are important, and is characterized by setting excessively high standards and having a perfectionist motivation for oneself. That is like the definition, or whatever you want to call it. Okay? And oftentimes, again, it starts with that, where you have these kind of excessively high standards for yourself. Now, that's not to say that that is, where it all rooted. Oftentimes, you've just like incorporated and ingrained other people's expectations onto yourself. And it started very early on by observing how other people talk about themselves or how other people behave, and then you thought of that as familiar and natural, and so you took that in and began to like have the same kind of way of thinking for yourself. Now, we also have other-oriented perfectionism, and other-oriented perfectionism is basically just like an extension of the self-oriented perfectionism, but you just project those excessively high standards onto others around you. So it might be very subtle, it might be it might not be, it might be more apparent, but you're still projecting those excessively high standards onto others. It could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be close ones, it could be strangers, it could be anyone really. And oftentimes then, the kind of perfectionistic tendencies that you apply onto others too. So if you have the tendency to like feel like you need to have control all the time, or you need to schedule things for yourself, you need to do things a certain way, in a certain order, and you have attachment to the outcome, and if things don't go your way, you get upset. Oftentimes you then project that onto others when you have other-oriented perfectionism. And it actually creates a lot of guilt and shame for yourself when you have this. I know, because it was a case for me too, where, very often, because other people are not me, they wouldn't, do what I thought that they would do. And so that created a dissonance in between what I wanted and what I got. And over time, that created frustration, and it created, tense energy and disconnection between myself and others. So with other-oriented perfectionism, it often at times creates loneliness. It creates a sense of being alone in this world, or just like not being understood, not feeling like people get you. And it creates frustration, like I said, with yourself and with others too. You might be called egocentric, or you might be called controlling, or something like that. And it can take a toll on you to hear that, right? So that is other-oriented perfectionism. Then we have socially prescribed perfectionism, which basically is where you kind of have these excessively high standards, and you think that others, society, and whatever around you put that onto you, right? And so you then believe that other people expect you to be perfect or to feel perfect, and that these other people will be highly critical of you, right, if you fail to meet these expectations. So you can hear that it has a lot to do with expectations here, right? Either you put expectations on yourself, you put expectations onto others, or you feel like society in general has certain expectations of you that you need to qualify on, or you need to behave a certain way. And this can manifest in so many different ways, in so many different areas of life, right? If you get consumed in what you're supposed to do, what you should do, that's often socially prescribed perfectionism. Now, socially prescribed perfectionism is on the rise. And oftentimes, or what it seems to be, is that it has a connection with the fact that our society and the way that we live nowadays has very much to do with the personal persona becoming like this image, and that we are encouraged to put a lot of emphasis on who it is that we appear to be more than what we actually are, right? So we put a lot of emphasis on that on social media, right? Where, you know, the likes and the subscribes and the this and then that, it seems to be intertwined with our worth. And that is what, if you get caught up in that hamster wheel, that is what can create socially prescribed perfectionism. If you then actually play into that and you see that as true, if you begin to actually feed your energy into focusing your energy and your attention onto what it is that you seem to get from what it is that you do, such as likes and subscribes and comments and all that kind of stuff, right? It's that can create take a toll on you, doesn't it? So you can see now how, of course, perfectionism is on the rise when society is changing. So again, we've got the self-oriented perfectionism, other-oriented perfectionism, and socially prescribed perfectionism. And these are the main types. I also have come to recognize that there is some sort of perfectionism pendulum. And what is that? Well, what I've seen is that perfectionism can swing from one side to the other in between hustling and procrastinating. And in the middle, we have balance, right? So hustling is overly grinding and taking action, whereas procrastination is inaction, or basically just like stagnant energy being still. And so with perfectionism is actually, you know, the root of both of these. It's not like hustling and procrastination are, you know, just that it has nothing to do with perfectionism, when in fact it does. Perfectionism is the root of these things. It has to do, again, with your level of unworthiness. And so some cope with, like you might cope with procrastination, where you're in action, right? And so you are then in this kind of freeze mode, right? Whereas with hustling, it's the opposite, right? You're then in fight mode, right? And fawn mode, right? Where you're policing and you're pushing and you're proving, all of that kind of stuff. That is grinding. And so we're kind of like in this kind of pendulum, this swing in between these two. And so being able to bloom beyond perfectionism is your ability to come back to center, come back to balance, and don't have, like, that you don't have any need to. You don't have any need to prove your worthiness. You don't have any need to do that. With procrastination, you know, you are just, you just have the stagnant energy to yourself, where, like, you just feel stuck, right? But hustling and business and grinding, that's another way to go about it, and it's just as destructive, if you ask me. And it just has become more and more apparent that, you know, that that kind of perfectionism is actually something that a lot of people use as a badge of honor, right? Look how busy I am. I have so much to do. I have so much on my list. That is just a way of saying I actually have hustling tendencies. I have grinding tendencies. I have perfectionism. See, I know this because I've been in both camps. And to be frank, it's not the way to go. If you are to create a life and business for yourself of freedom, then what you want is to have a balanced approach, right? You want to have a sustainable sustainable approach. And neither of these are very sustainable. Procrastination takes a toll on your level of self-esteem and self-confidence. Whereas, with grinding and everything, that makes you just frizzled, and your energy is not able to go to the main thing because it goes in so many different directions that you're not able to charge it towards something in particular. Not to the degree that you could if you were to bloom beyond perfectionism. So you see now how, perfectionism is quite a coping mechanism, and it can manifest in different ways. We have different types of perfectionism, and I hope that this gave you some clarity into what kind of type you might actually then have of the perfectionism, right? As well as look into where are you on this pendulum between hustling and procrastination. Where do you find yourself being most of the time? And take a look on your inner language and the language that you use in your day-to-day as well with others. Because your language holds the key to what it is that you embody, right? To bloom beyond perfectionism really involves you being able to shift your language and the images that you have in your mind. Because with perfectionism, you have oftentimes very disastrous images in your mind, because it all stems from this belief that I'm not worthy and I have to prove things, right? And you think to yourself, what if this and this and this don't happen? What if da 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 da? What if da 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 da? And so all of these what ifs and shoulds and have tos, they take a toll on you, don't they? So if this speaks to you, and I bet it does since you're here, then you are more than welcome to apply to the Bloom Beyond Tribe, which is a tribe for sunflowers and bloomers, for free guests and clients, as well as myself and the team. We're in there together to help you understand perfectionism better, right? And to understand the subconscious mind better, be able to work with the subconscious mind to rewire your way of thinking and your way of being, to no longer be stuck in perfectionism, to no longer have self-oriented perfectionism, other-oriented perfectionism, or socially prescribed perfectionism, to not be swinging in between on this pendulum. So you're more than welcome to apply. We have a 256 members limit, and also keep in mind that we have monthly cohorts, so there will be a waiting list and a waiting time for you to come in if your application is selected. But you're more than welcome to let us know about your perfectionism and how it manifests for you, and we can see if we can support you with that. All right, have a good one. Stay bright, stay brave, and stay balanced.